Welcome to Your Future in Sales and Marketing, a podcast that helps you make great career decisions to get the most out of your career journey. We'll introduce you to the AXR network of established senior leaders and a handpicked group of future aspiring leaders who have it all in front of them. You'll learn what it's like in the top job and how to get there. Your hosts from AXR's specialist sales and marketing recruitment team will also land bonus episodes for you on how to work with recruiters, write a resume, and smash an interview, as well as our very popular market updates. It's the podcast that has it all. You can't get this career advice anywhere else.
Welcome everyone to Your Future in Sales and Marketing. My name is Mike Dixon, Director of the AXR Sales and Marketing Practice. We're joined in the studio today by Glen Scarlett, Commercial Director of Pernod Ricard Australia. Welcome to the pod, Glen. How are you?
Very well, thanks, and thank you for inviting me in today.
You are more than welcome. We've been trying to make this happen for a little while, so it's good to get it done and get you in the studio.
Yeah, no, nice to be here. I must admit, we did talk about 2 years ago, I think, but We're finally here.
Well, you were new into your role, and it's been a whirlwind since at Pernod Ricard. Most recently, with landing new structure, new office move, a bunch of stuff. So I get you've been busy.
Yes, that's right. So hopefully, there's more richness of conversation to be had now than there would have been back then.
I reckon. But let's get into it. So everyone's favorite question, which is your favorite brand, Glen, and you can't pick one you've worked on.
I know you have given me the brief that I'm not allowed to say Jameson, but if I could, I would say that.
Oh, you did say it. That's
okay,
all right.
Sorry about that. But I'm going to say the favorite brand is Victorinox, who are the maker of the humble Swiss Army knife. And the reasons, well, I've had a Swiss Army knife for about 30 years, and there's very few things it hasn't cut, opened, or fixed for me. It's traveled the world with me. It goes on every holiday with me. And what I love about the brand and the company is that, in our fast-paced consumerist world these days, it's something that's kind of built to last and not be replaced every few years. And I really respect that. And I love mine. This could tell some great stories.
What a great answer. I had one when I was a kid and then I lost it. And when my brother got married, he gave me one as a gift. About many years ago now, and I've had it ever since. I love it.
Yeah. My brother gave me mine before I first went traveling many years ago, and I take it everywhere.
Completely. Well, that's a winner. I think that's the best one we've had so far, I reckon, Glen, personally speaking. Cool. Okay, so let's jump into your career in a second. Before we do, a bit about your background, where you're from. So where did you grow up? What was life like before the career started?
I grew up in a small seaside town in England called Lowestoft, which I am quite positive 99% of people listening or watching this will have never heard of. But you could also say that for people that are in England, they wouldn't be able to point at it on a map either. So to make it easy, it's the most easterly point of the UK. It has the most easterly town in the UK,
really?
Right on the coast in East Anglia, and it's a small seaside town. When growing up there, it was surrounded by family beaches. It was a lovely little loving and safe community, if not the most challenging.
Yeah. So most easterly, so probably the most sunny as well.
Yeah. Lowest rainfall in the country, very close to Europe. Yeah.
People always say when I'm from Scotland, like, oh, you must like the rain. I'm from the East Coast, so it's actually quite dry.
Yeah, it's surprising. It's got a great beach to it, award-winning beach. Yeah, it's great.
There we are. So
I grew up on the beach, but not quite like an Australian beach.
Yes. So we've advertised the Swiss Army knife and Lowestoft so far. And Jameson. So let's see where we go. Now, your career is fantastic, and we're going to talk all about it. But it could have been really different if your original plan in life had worked out. So where would you be and what could you be doing now if plan A had kind of happened?
I harbored an ambition from about the age of 10, or probably as far back as I can remember, that I wanted to join the police force. That was my childhood ambition, and I held on to it for 10 years or more, but got to the point where my initial applications were not successful. And it's because I was very young. You can apply for the police in the UK at 18 and a half. And I don't think I'd want my police force to be 18 and a half. So the advice was get some life experience, job around a little bit, reapply in a few years' time. And so I did that. And that led me down the start of a hospitality and liquor path. And once I got a few years into that, it set me on a very, very different trajectory, which I'm sure we'll get to talk about at some point today. But I never reapplied. I never went back. I never turned back and never tried again. So yes, I could have been somewhere, maybe still in Lowestoft being a policeman. Who knows?
Yeah. Do you ever think about what if?
Well, I actually had some friends back in the UK that joined the police. And look, once I heard some of the stories and got a very grown up and real perspective on what the job actually entails, I don't think maybe I would have turned out a very different person and that would have been fine, but quite happy that no regrets that I didn't get in.
Plan B was probably the better one in the end.
I think so.
Well, let's get into plan B. So you mentioned there that in getting your life experience to begin with, it was hospitality and liquors. Then it kind of, you took another kind of different step as well. So just take us through the early years. How did that kind of life experience gathering work out for you?
Yeah, well, the liquor wholesale job that I worked in, or that I did, was really informative. I was working for a startup business effectively, and wasn't called that then, but it was a very entrepreneurial person that started it. I learned a lot from him, and I loved it. It was fast paced. It was, I was making some money. My friends were all going away to university and getting other jobs, and I sort of stayed around that hometown for a few more years. But what I found was, after a period of time, I felt a little bit like I'd been left behind, because my closest friends had gone away and moved to, finished university by then and moved to London or other bigger cities or even overseas. And I remember very clearly thinking, you know what, I feel I've been a little bit overtaken here, and I'm sort of still jobbing around in the same place, and it's not quite as fulfilling as it was a few years before. And so I had a sort of very pivotal moment where the penny dropped, and I was like, you know what, I actually need to challenge myself a bit more, and I need to branch out a bit and get out of my comfort zone. And it set me on a path for the next many, many years, until I was in my 20s at this point, but until my early 30s, of fulfilling some ambitions to travel and work in different locations. And I'd probably sum it up as chasing experience. I wasn't chasing a career. I wasn't going after anything in particular. I was chasing new experiences. And some of that was work, but a lot of it was also travel too.
Mm. And you ended up teaching.
Yes.
Overseas. Where did you teach? How did that happen?
Well, it was a way to continue the travel and new experiences.
Right.
And I thought, let's try something different. So I did a teaching course, so teaching English as a foreign language. I did that for a while in Sydney, funnily enough, but ended up doing it for a much longer time in Cambodia. So I wanted to experience a culture sort of fairly far removed from what I knew and what I grew up with, and ended up, and I traveled around Southeast Asia before during a sort of a backpacking phase, and I loved Cambodia, and I thought that'd be quite different. So I went there and found a job teaching English for a while. Great.
I did a lot of travel too, and I always thought I'd go back and travel more, and then I got back and got a job. It just didn't happen after my kind of big year away. But you kept it going for a wee while, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, many years. And there was, I'd take a 6-month contract here and there, and working. I went back to the UK a couple of times for a few stints at work, but then would travel again, or find a job somewhere else, and just trying to keep a momentum going so I could continue moving around and, as I say, have as many new experiences as I could fit in.
Well, you certainly weren't getting left behind by doing all that. So, and Australia, now you mentioned you did some teaching in Australia. Was that what kind of piqued your interest from a kind of life career perspective?
Yeah, look, when I backpacked here, and then I spent about 6 months here as well on a work visa, and who wouldn't want to live in paradise? When you grow up in the UK, it can be lovely, but just seeing the opportunities here and the lifestyle here, and wanting to put down roots. I'd been on the road for quite a long time by that point. As I said, I was probably into my 30s by then, and I wanted to put down roots. Yeah. And so this was the place to do it.
This is a choice. Well, I concur. It may work for me too. I'm interested, though, the shift into corporate life, because then the career started, Glenn, and you started working in Suntory. You arrived a little bit later, as you described, because you'd done all these things. You've been gathering experiences, traveling, teaching, working in a liquor startup. You didn't go to uni. So the path was unorthodox. Did you fit into corporate life straight away?
Yes and no. I was always conscious that my path to get there had been a bit different. And I wouldn't say it's not a disadvantage or an advantage. You've just gathered different experiences along the way to get to that point. So I must admit, moving into the more corporate space, and that was probably my first time in a bigger organization, it's just, you've just got to be super curious. You've just got to, I had to figure out, just how different parts of the business work and structures and the dynamics and relationships, managing that on that corporate scale. That was all quite new. And I think of it as a bit like, it's like a Rubik's Cube. You make some adjustments over here and you see the impact somewhere else. And then you move somewhere else and you fiddle around the edges and you find out what works and what doesn't. So it wasn't a disadvantage, but I probably had to come at it from a different angle to figure out how to get the best result out of myself.
What was your entry point? What kind of role and level did you start at?
I joined as an account manager. I was on the road. I was on the road. Yeah. Going around. It was I was doing retail and on-premise at the time. Yeah, I got to go to regional parts of New South Wales that I'd never visited before. And yeah, it was great fun.
Yeah. I think it's a real interesting point because a lot of people think if you make different decisions and do different things, you're sacrificing career. But here we are today talking to the commercial director of Pernod Ricard Australia, who didn't start his corporate life till his 30s.
That's right.
So it doesn't mean that every path has to be this perfect run of things that you start from in your early 20s.
That's right.
Yeah, I love it. So you were in Suntory for about 6 years or so, Glenn, then moved to Pernod Ricard. So what took you from Suntory to Pernod?
Well, at the time, Suntory was quite a different business to what it is today. They hadn't done all of the acquisitions they've done in recent years. And the model in Australia was they were more a distribution model more so. So, a third party distributing other global brands. And I went through a few cycles of seeing some of those brands come and go, and it was great fun, and I learned a lot. But I got to the point of wanting to be in a business that had a bit more of a global footprint and a bit more stability, I guess. And so Pernod Ricard, with the breadth of portfolio it has and the premium brands that it owns, seemed like a really good fit and a place that I could see a future career and progression and just a broader number of roles that I might be able to go for into the future.
Yeah, which certainly worked because 12 years or so, 6 roles, the career definitely accelerated quite nicely and obviously hasn't stopped. But I remember when we originally talked about this pod and you were newly into the commercial director role, you actually said you had a very early ambition. That's what you wanted to get to. Where did that come from?
Yeah, well, look, I think, I did. When I joined the business, I was quite clear that I wanted to be commercial director. And I mean, I'm sure many people laughed at me, but at the time I had no idea how to do the role. I don't think I even would have known what the role really entailed at that point in time, but it seemed aspirational. And what I'd learned through, moving through chasing experiences previously to then more focused on a career and chasing career progression and fulfillment or leadership, whatever you want to call it, I found that, I wanted to be challenged. It's not like I get bored easily, but if something's comfortable and easy and you can maintain it, kind of, for me, where's the fun in that? So get a role, try it, figure out how to do it, try and get some success in it. And hopefully that sets you up for the opportunity to get the next one. And that's kind of how I've approached all of those roles that I've done in the last 12 years at Pernod. See it as a platform to take the next step and then figure out how to do it once you get there.
Well, one of the pieces of advice I know that you'll share with on the National Account Manager mini pod that Beth is running is around just be good at your job.
Demonstrate you're capable and get some results. And once you do it a few times, it sort of gives you confidence by building a bit of a pattern. Like if you achieve it once or twice, it's not by chance then. If you get some runs on the board, it doesn't happen by chance. And once you can demonstrate it a few times, it certainly helps set you up for the next thing. I must admit, but you need to go through that. You need to live that. You can't have that plan at the start and just assume it will happen. And it took me a while to get to that. But if I'm honest, I didn't have that view. I've only worked that out subsequently as I've been through that cycle a few times. And I must admit, when I was young, when I worked in the liquor wholesale in the UK many years ago, confidence was a bit knocked then probably. I worked for somebody that, made an offhand comment one day that stuck with me for quite a few years. And I can't remember what was going on particularly that day in the office, but we were talking about ambitions and capability. And he basically said something to me like, I hate to break it to you, but you're never going to be the chairman of ICI, which was a big company at the time. And I remember that sort of knocked me a little bit. It's like, oh, well, you obviously don't think a great deal of what I do. And I carried it with me for a few years. But as I then got into the corporate space and moved through a few different roles, it was like, well, hold on. I have seen this pattern of success. I have seen new opportunities come my way. And I got to the point these days where it's like, well, why couldn't I have been the chairman of ICI? Why not me? Why can't it be me? Why does it have to be somebody else? And so it became a bit of a superpower in the end, from something that knocked me initially to being something that really fueled me. I
think that's a really interesting philosophy. Very few people are born with this innate confidence and self-belief. I mean, you had the confidence to say, I want to be a commercial director. You have this backdrop of a boss who's kind of taking your legs out under you when you were younger. But actually, this philosophy, this model of, well, why not me? I think it's a really grounding, practical perspective for anyone to take.
Yeah, and in a sort of ironic way, I'm grateful that happened, that it actually gave me some perspective and actually served as I was managed to flip my thinking on it and use it as a bit of fuel to drive forwards.
And are you still in touch with the old boss?
Yeah. Look, he's a great guy. I wouldn't say anything bad about him. It was an offhand comment he made once, but it was just one of those things that stuck with me. But no, he's a very successful.
He's probably very proud of where you got to.
Yeah, I think so. I think so.
Yeah, fantastic. looking at your journey so far, Glenn, has there been a role or a couple of roles that have been more transformational than others in terms of actually whether it's experience gathering or situations you've been in or tasks you've had to do that you've thought, oh, I'm glad I did that?
I think, as we sort of just said, just being good at what your job is, the job description is by itself is good for you. And you go step by step, I find. And I wouldn't say any role in particular had greater impact than another. I might have enjoyed some more than others, but it doesn't mean you don't learn equally as much from it. Some good advice I was given some years ago was, what makes you good or successful in your role is not what will bring you success in your next role. And with that mindset, you don't get complacent. And I always enter a new role thinking, right, everything I've done has got me to this point. I've taken the next step. Now it's on me to actually figure out how to do this next role really well. And that will set me up for the future steps. So I wouldn't say anything's been more significant than others. You're allowed to enjoy some roles more than others. That's perfectly natural and okay to admit. But for me, it's what did I learn from that? How has it given me the next step? And how do I figure out the jigsaw puzzle of how to do the next role?
Yeah. What's been the most fun role so far?
Well, I guess I have to say this one.
Oh, political answer. Well, it's the one you wanted.
There you go. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, even though I didn't know what it would be like. No, it's fantastic. I love what I do.
Yeah. So as the commercial director of Pernod Ricard, one of the most influential liquor organizations in Australia and the world, I'm interested because we do a lot of work in liquor. We talk to, know and work with the majority of the organizations across Australia. And like every sector, it has its opportunities and challenges. What do you see from your perspective, if you look more broadly at the liquor marketplace right now? What's going on in terms of the challenges that the industry is facing, and what do you think the opportunities are going forward?
Yeah, there's a number of, I'd call it the global macro mega trends that are in place in the market and in force, which have been there for a few years. Mega trends or macro trends don't really change that quickly. And there are things around, like health and well-being and better for you and lighter style drinks and that kind of thing. And then you overlay that with some of the geopolitical tension that's out in market at the moment. And that obviously has a ripple effect onto economies and our ability to either just do business or our ability to grow business or be more profitable at business. And so you look at all of those things, and it's very easy to think that there's only cons attached to them, there's only negatives attached to all of those things. But some of the positives that come out from that would be that, for us anyway, is that, spirits as our predominant category is actually still quite attractive and appealing. We know that there's quite a high desirability around spirit brands. We know that people actually still want premium products and experiences. Now, their ability to be able to afford them at the moment, or their lifestyle that they have to live, might not be able to do that as frequently as possible, but there's still opportunity within that. You look at the economical challenges right now are cyclical. That will change. People still do like coming together, and it's human connection. And people still want to go out and socialize. They want to spend money. They want to have a nice time. And I think, it will come good again. It will get better again than where it is right now. If you look at society as a general, I think is built on that human connection. We've evolved as communities. We haven't evolved as individuals. And it feels like a lot of things happening in the world right now force us to be more individual. Yeah. But I think it will continue to change and evolve. And as a collective, we are communities. We do want connection, and the liquor industry, whatever part it plays, helps facilitate that and helps bring people together and create moments.
Yeah. I blame Donald Trump for all this. Individualism and separatist and divisiveness.
I think it's a layering of many factors that are going on around the world at the moment that have just created this situation. But lots of it won't endure as well.
Yeah, agreed. We've talked about Pernod Ricard a little bit, and a lot of people will know the name and maybe not have a clear sense on the business. Give us a sense of who Pernod Ricard is, Glenn.
Well, I can tell you we're on our 50th year anniversary of the Pernod Ricard business. Yes.
Congrats.
Yeah, 50 years. And it was the coming together of two big drinks companies in France, the Pernod business and the Ricard business. And they were both in their own right very successful in their own domestic market. And 50 years ago, they made the bold decision to come together and merge the two businesses with a view that they would create a global business. So moving from domestic to global. And that was 50 years ago. And over that time, there's been an acquisition of brands that has taken place. There's 20,000 employees around the world, and they've got themselves to the global number 2 in market in spirits. We're a leader in premium. And today we've got power brands like Absolute, Jameson, Chivas Regal, very have great provenance and legacy and a great platform for future growth. So outside of that, we pride ourselves on our culture. Conviviality is at the core of what we do, and it probably goes back to the bit why the business resonates with me is that connection and that community and bringing people together and creating moments. So that's the story of the business in a very quick nutshell.
Fantastic. That's a lovely word, conviviality. I have seen that when I've looked at Pernod. It's part of how you talk about yourselves, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the core of our culture. We talk about sort of working beyond borders. We're a global organization, and we work really hard to maintain that culture. There was a saying by one of our founders, Paul Ricard, about making a new friend every day, and that really rings true, and we try and live that.
Yeah. Brilliant. Fantastic. Well, I'm sure you've made a bunch of new pals on the podcast. So this role of commercial director, that you aspire to from early on in your corporate life, didn't really know what it was, which is not unfamiliar. And this is part of what we do this pod is to show future leaders actually what do these senior people do? What's actually involved in the role. They have little sense often, and that's just because they're removed from your level. You're now doing it. So talk about the scope. What's the scope of your role, Glenn?
Right. The short and simple answer is grow the business. but that's too simplistic. But ultimately, can never lose sight of that's what the long-term objective actually is. But if I look at, I'm responsible for all commercial elements. So anything sales related obviously falls under me. But what that means for me is, if I look at it internally and then externally, it's about my people and my team. And ultimately, I'm trying to facilitate, their own career growth and trajectory and progress and enjoyment. So it's about making sure that we do have a workplace that's attractive for people that they want to dedicate so much of their time to and see a longer term career in. So very much trying to focus on our people and develop them is a key part of it. And externally, it's obviously working with all of our great customers and trying to convince them that we have the brands and portfolio and expertise to actually grow their business and grow the categories that we play in. So it's making sure that we're an attractive business to do business with.
Yeah. Brilliant. Fantastic. And just to get again a sense of scope, so number of people in your team, you would have field sales and customer management, I imagine?
Yes, that's right. I mean, it covers category as well. It's about 70 people, 75 people in my team.
Great. So big team. Yeah. Fantastic. Good. And what about you as a leader? It's a lot of people to inspire and want to commit their life to, as you say. What's your style? Talk a bit about how you do that.
My approach, as much as you can try and teach yourself new skills and learn new things, and you can try out different practices, I think what's at your core is at your core, and your own natural style and tendency tends to come through if you're being authentic. And all I really have is empathy and humility, which might sound a bit cheesy saying that out loud, but it is. I don't take myself too seriously. I take what I do very seriously, but I try to be pretty humble with that. And the empathy part, I just try to be really tuned into the people around me. You can't do my job without having an amazing team, and so being attuned to them and helping and supporting them and listening to them is what will bring you success. It's not me that brings any success for our business. It's the broader team that do it. And so it's my job to try and assemble the best one and give them the best platform to be able to do what they do.
Great. One of the big things in a senior leadership role that often I think those in an earlier stage career don't quite get because they're so immersed in the doing is the fact that you are responsible for growing the business, as you say, the number, and making that happen. But you're also working on the business as well in terms of actually what does that plan and strategy look like? How do you balance that strategy, leadership team piece with the execution, doing the sales, the number, the daily grind?
Yeah, this might be a bit of a long answer maybe, but I heard a great quote the other day that was describing strategy, and it described strategy as a coherent response to unpredictable conditions. But I think that's equally true of leadership in general. It's a coherent response to unpredictable conditions, which is very true. But I think good leadership directs you where to go within the business to answer your question is if you're super curious about what those unpredictable conditions are. If you're open-minded, you seek counsel, you ask lots of questions, you listen to lots of people, the more you chase to understand those unpredictable conditions and the complexity of those unpredictable conditions, you can make better decisions and choices. I think if you're very quick to rush to, this is the way we do it and this is the right thing to do and move on with it without exploring the unpredictable conditions first, you might not get the same results. So, and the second part of the answer, probably working in the business, working on the business that you referenced there, I find that if you are curious about those things, what needs your focus naturally rises to the surface. You know, there's a lot of structure and rigor you can apply to this. And when you start new roles, you can have a 90-day plan and you can follow a set of instructions. But if you're really trying to listen and observe, what needs your attention makes itself quite obvious. And there can be structural things going on. As you mentioned, we've been through a period of transformation. And so that very much needed my focus to work on that. But when you're not going through a period of change, you very quickly work out where your energy needs to go and when you need to dive into the business to either support team or work with some customers or deliver a project, whatever it might be. But it generally, to my mind, makes itself quite apparent quite quickly.
Yeah, that's a really good answer. Just repeat what you said at the beginning around the answer, a coherent response to...
the quote came from strategy, but I apply it to leadership. Yeah. So I'd say leadership is a coherent response to unpredictable conditions.
That's great. I'm going to use that.
Yeah, I'd love to say it was mine, but it's not.
But it's actually sums up leadership, I think, very nicely.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. Good. Great. Okay, guys, remember that. That's a really good one. Okay, in terms of your career journey, you're in this commercial director role, Glenn, working on strategy, owning a big team. Not everyone reaches that level of enterprise leadership. Where do you go next? Is it stepping further into the enterprise leadership space, or what kind of pathways do you see going forward?
Yeah, look, as I said, I mean, within Pernod Ricard, there's 20,000 people globally. There's many opportunities here and overseas, which is part of the appeal for me. And yes, I'd be lying if I didn't say, having as broad a reach as possible on where the business goes is really appealing to me. Having influence on all parts of the business outside of just the commercial function that I run is really exciting. And I do get some exposure to many elements of that in the role I'm in, even if I'm not fully responsible for it. But yeah, things like delivering global strategy or global change or transformation is of great appeal. And while you're doing a bit less of the doing, seeing that play out across your teams is immensely satisfying. So yeah, absolutely, that's the direction I'd love to go in next.
Brilliant. Long way from Lowestoft.
Couldn't be more different.
Love it. We touched earlier on, liquor's changing, and you talked very well around the opportunities and the challenges and how the mega economic and trends kind of are influencing that. I think a lot of people in FMCG look at liquor with some interest. And this is if I look at our listenership and the community that we serve, it's across the whole consumer sector. So we have a lot of FMCG listeners, liquor, consumer healthcare, electronics, the works. But we do get a lot of people asking, liquor, should I get into it? What would you say?
Absolutely, you should. It's brilliant. Look, if you're outgoing, we don't even have to be outgoing to enjoy it, but it has a very social, connected feel to this industry. It's very collegiate from a supplier point of view. There's a lot of connection points around the industry and events and gatherings and customer functions that you see a lot of your competitors at. And it feels probably a bit unnatural to think I'm socializing or I'm connecting with my competitors. But there's a genuine sense that we all want the industry to do well and to grow, and that it's about increasing the size of the pie. It's not just about us beating a competitor, although there is an element of that as well. But it's a very, very social industry. And so anybody that finds that appealing should absolutely do it. I think from a technical and capability point of view, we've come leaps and bounds in a few years' time.
Yeah, agreed.
From a D&I point of view, I think we've come leaps and bounds in the last 10 years. And so I think there's a lot more self-awareness within the industry now. And as a longer term career path, I think it's a great place to work.
I think we've had 4, I might have this wrong, leaders in the liquor industry, sales leaders in the liquor industry on this year, 2 male, 2 female. So there we go. Kez and Nicole from Lion and Diageo, and then yourself and Brad Madigan from Brown Forman. So there we are. There's D&I, and I reckon I would agree, capabilities come on hugely.
Yeah, from the D&I point of view, obviously gender generally gets the focus initially, but from a cognitive point of view, I think we look for diversity as well. And as I said, from a capability and a development and training point of view, we massively focus on that across the industry. And there's a number of industry-wide platforms and courses that are out there for people to participate in.
It is very collaborative. I would definitely say that. We run a lot of leaders' lunches, host events, and if we bring people together from different sectors, if people have worked in liquor at some point, God, they all know each other. And the FMCG people are going, oh, I've seen you across the room, and liquor is like, hey, how are you?
that's what it's like. And I think that's one of our strengths and what sets us apart.
Yeah, it is different, but great. Okay, good advert for liquor. I concur. I'm very proud representing and recruiting in that space, actually. Now, we touched on earlier on that tongue-in-cheek a little bit around career confidence for you, but I think it's very real for a lot of people, Glenn. Some people call it imposter syndrome, others kind of perhaps sit in their lane or sit in their role too long because they're uncertain about putting themselves forward or pushing themselves into the next space, that it's easier to be comfortable. What advice would you give people who are perhaps I've listened to your story and think I should be pushing myself a bit further?
Mm-hmm. I'd say if you genuinely want to challenge yourself, like listen to your gut. When you get that feeling or something feels uncomfortable, that's a good thing. That doesn't mean you shouldn't do it or you're not capable or you should back away from it. It means absolutely go for it. It's not about, for me, it was never about getting out of a comfort zone. It was like, how can I do as many things as possible that makes my comfort zone so big that I feel like I can take on anything? And so I would encourage people just to put yourself out there. Take the opportunity as it comes. Don't be wondering. If you're genuinely ambitious and want the experience or want to grow your own leadership style, take on everything.
Yeah. That's really interesting. I've not heard a phrase like that before. You can grow the size of that comfort zone so that actually anything feels possible.
Yeah, you're growing your own kit bag, your tool bag. You've got so many more things you can deploy and tackle any situation. You're not overwhelmed by the complexity or the size of problems in so much. Yeah, I'd encourage anyone to go for it and just enjoy being uncomfortable.
Yeah, good. Now, you've spent most of your time in the sales function, Glenn, and it's worked very well. We talked at the start, a kind of unorthodox beginning, but it's worked out fantastically for you. What advice would you, or do you give to future leaders about career pathways and this experience gathering piece?
Yeah, it's interesting when you sort of auteur the movie of your life, like the Hollywood movie of your life, and you look back at things that have happened. It seems really obvious. It's like, oh, well, I got this job, or I met this person, or I moved here. And it just seems really obvious that it all fell into place just as it all should have. Of course, the reality is nothing like that. When decisions or opportunities come your way, you've got no idea which way it's going to go. And so I think for me, it just so happened that it stayed in the commercial space for most of my career. And it's not that I can't or wouldn't do anything else now, but it seems to be the path I'm on. But I'm equally open to whatever might come next. But I think you shouldn't be limited by that. If an opportunity comes up, you never know when the next role's coming up or somebody approaches you. Consider anything, I would say. And, if you talk to any HR person these days, that is the general career advice. It's not a ladder anymore. You're not just trying to climb a ladder. It's the spider web. You're trying to move around as many different places as possible. And yeah, I would have done that had the opportunities come that way. They just didn't fall that way for me. So I think I'm probably more the exception rather than the norm these days. And so my advice would be to anyone. And like I said before, I've done roles that I've enjoyed less than other roles. It doesn't matter if you don't love every role you do, or if you think it was not a mistake, but a role like I did that for 12 months or 18 months, but it wasn't for me and I'll try something else. There's still a lot to be learned within that. You're not pigeonholing yourself. You're not trapped. You can move on again quite easily in the future.
Yeah, great advice. I think I know the answer to the last question, Glenn, because we could have talked about it. But let's go back to start the pod. It was the police, or it's this wonderful career that's taking you around the world and now living in paradise in Australia. Right option?
Yeah. But yeah, I think I'm not doing anything for the tourism of Lowestoft here. I don't think. If I say I would have rather stayed there, but no. Obviously I've had my experiences and I don't know anything else, so I can't. It's impossible to comment on anything else. But what I can say is, where I am now and what the experiences I've had. I love being challenged. I've loved, I feel excited in what I do in my job. I feel fulfilled in what I do. I feel connection, and there's growth ahead as well. There's still more I can do and other places I can go. So if I could, would I have changed any of my path? Definitely not.
Yeah, brilliant. Love it. Thank you so much. Love the story. Wonderful journey. From the unorthodox beginning to the way it's mapped out, I think it's absolutely brilliant. Very inspiring. So thank you so much for your humility and authenticity.
Thank you, Mike.
And thanks to you guys for listening. If you're not connected to AXR, then reach out to me, any of the team, to join our community and lock in your annual career conversation. It amazes me how many future leaders just think their career will happen. It doesn't. You own your career. Nobody else does. Check in every year. Like a dentist. You've got to go once a year at least. So come and see us, make sure you're on the right track. Now, from me, Mike Dixon of AXR Recruitment and Search, again, thanks for listening, guys. We'll be back soon with more episodes and insights to help your future in sales and marketing.
We hope you enjoyed today's podcast from AXR Recruitment and Search. We're passionate about helping you get the most out of your sales and marketing career. Keep listening as we bring you more career insights and advice from Australia's inspiring sales and marketing leaders. See you next time on Your Future in Sales and Marketing.